Hi. That was so pathetic. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be reading 5.5 Percy Jackson books by Rick Riordan, and you might be thinking 5.5? That's a bit strange. That is because I'm reading the original first 5 Percy Jackson books with the World Book Day book that came out a few years ago. I need a little bit of guidance with this vlog because I've only ever read the first 2 Percy Jackson books, so I wasn't 100% sure which other ones to add to this because there are so many different spin-offs of this series, or at least other books that are set in this world. And I wasn't sure if I could read the World Book Day book before reading Heroes of Olympus, Kane Chronicles, Trials of Apollo. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was assured that I could. So that is 5.5 books in this video. There is a brand new book called The Chalice of the Gods, which I do have. It's currently boxed away right now. But I was told I should not read that book until I've read Heroes of Olympus and caught up with the series, essentially. So I'm not going to be reading it in this vlog. I'm going to do future Rick Riordan vlogs and cover the entire series before getting to the new Percy Jackson book. I don't want any spoilers is the only thing. However, this vlog will be filled with spoilers. I hope you don't mind. It's so hard to get these books out of this box. It's wedged. I had the same problem with the Wizard of Oz books. Why are these box sets jammed? I'm breaking this freaking box set apart just to get them out. Oh, hang on. Oh, finally. Finally. That is much better. So yeah, as I've said, I've already read the first 2 Percy Jackson books, but it has been a few years since I read them, so I've kind of forgotten a lot of the stuff that's happened in them, because even though I've seen the movies that originally came out years and years and years ago, and I kind of liked them, but that was before reading the books, so obviously they're not brilliant adaptations, but they were still popcorn entertainment for me at the time of watching them. But there is a brand new Disney Plus adaptation coming on December 20th, so that is why I am reading these books specifically for that reason, to celebrate the new TV show. Very excited to watch it. I think it's going to be awesome. So that means I will be doing a reread of... I'm so ungraceful. So that means I will be doing a reread of The Lightning Thief and a reread of The Sea of Monsters. And then I will be reading The Titan's Curse, The Battle of the Labyrinth, The Last Olympian, and The Singer of Apollo for the very first time. I'm going to try and go through all of the thoughts that I have while reading these books this week. I'm going to try and finish them in round about 5 or 6 days. That is my goal. And if you do end up enjoying this video, don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Can someone explain to me why I have this huge need to listen to Poker Face by Lady Gaga right now? Say what you want about that movie adaptation of Percy Jackson. That Poker Face scene, it's one for the ages. Honestly, I'm such an unpopular opinion, but I do still, even after reading this for the 3rd time now, I think that the movie is still a lot of fun. But I do still want an adaptation worthy of this greatness. I did finish this at around about 3:30 a.m. last night. I did some last minute reading sprints on my channel because I really wanted to finish this last night, and it was so much fun. So quick to read too. I just still can't get over the fact that I finished this in such a quick amount of time. The plot is just continuous. I feel like if anything this book does right is that it keeps the plot moving forward. It is so fast paced. It will not bore any single reader in the target audience. At least I don't think so. Obviously there will be exceptions to the rule. There might be some people who find it boring, but seriously, pretty much nearly every single chapter feels like an episode of a TV show itself. Something big pretty much happens. There's always something that is propelling the plot forward, whether it's a character revelation, the world expanding, some kind of fight with a monster. Something happens every single chapter, and it just made it that much more enjoyable to read. I didn't want to stop, and it made every single chapter memorable. And for someone like me who I do read a lot of books, and a lot of the times I do forget a lot of stuff that happens in them, this one is not one of those books because there's something always happening. And it's not a bad thing. I genuinely don't think it's a bad thing. And I think it's told even better through the narration style. We have Percy Jackson, who is I think he's 12. He is somebody who is pretty much misunderstood by a lot of people, and he is actually a demigod as well. You find out he's a demigod, but the narration style of this, he's talking to us directly, and the way that he presents the story is just so endearing and engrossing. If you're a normal kid reading this because you think it's fiction, great, read on. I envy you for being able to believe that none of this ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, if you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. Immediately, I already love the narration style. I love being told directly, oh, this is a story that you shouldn't be reading if you find anything similar about yourself. This could be dangerous. I love books like that. I also love the chapter titles too. I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. Things are told in such an unserious way. Like, it's very hard because we have Percy Jackson who is finding out these incredible big things, and yet he reacts in such a way that I think, you know, it isn't that serious sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, he has just killed his teacher with a big sword, and like, it came out of nowhere, and yeah, there is like this whole idea of like the mist, which does help people to forget, or like mortals to forget, or say things that a mortal brain couldn't comprehend. But like, Percy Jackson is half human, half god, and yeah, he does this thing that is so extraordinary, and like, his reaction is a little bit like, okay, I did that. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't really take it that seriously. The characters around him do gaslight him and pretend that Mrs. Dodds didn't even exist in the first place. Like Grover and the other teacher. Damn it, like, character names will not stick with me for a while. I do find them the hardest to remember sometimes. Mr. Brunner, but I do believe he has a first name that begins with a C, and I kept getting it mixed up with Charon. You've read this, you know what I mean. This is all filled with spoilers. But yeah, some people do gaslight him into believing something else, and yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's fun. Like, this is, I think, the first goal of this book is to just be fun and engaging to the target audience, and I think it did that job tremendously. And yeah, it starts off so well. I think the first chapter is so engaging and so exciting, and I love the fact that Percy Jackson is presented in a way who does stick up for people who are bullied. Grover is an easy target. Grover is his best friend, but it turns out that he is a satyr who is supposed to protect Percy, and goes on his adventure with him later on too. But Grover's getting bullied by Nancy Bobofit, and the way that Percy wants to stand up for him and is standing up for somebody who is bullied, I think that is such a great and important message for teenagers who are, you know, at school, they see bullying happen and they don't do anything about it, or they're bullied themselves and they feel alone. And, you know, I feel like having a character like Percy who, off the bat, seems like such a good protagonist to have around. Yeah, I love the start of it, and I do think some of it was a little bit heavy-handed with, like, presenting Mrs. Dobbs as the villain. I mean, at first, I thought it was a little bit clever. You know, Mrs. Dodds would give me the evil eye. I told Grover I didn't think Mrs. Dodds was human, and like, it just keeps going and going and going, like saying things like that are just a little bit on the nose about Mrs. Dodds not being human. So we could have done with a little bit more subtly into bringing the revelation that Mrs. Dodds is bad. And I remember, I believe from the film, honestly, I've forgotten the film so much. I have that core memory of Poker Face, and everything else is like a little bit of a blur. Oh my god, that is a strong coffee, wow. I can't believe how strong I made this coffee. Right, but I love the descriptions of this. And remember, this is Percy as a narrator telling us what's happening. So when she turns, her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals, her fingers stretched in talons, her jacket melted into a large leathery wings. She wasn't human, she was a shriveled hag with bat wings and claws and a mouthful of yellow fangs, and she was about to slice me to ribbons. And this is on page 12, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a way of hooking the reader so quickly. And while she was destroyed literally on the next page so easy and a little bit anticlimactically, it did give us that taste of what this world will deliver, and it was a taste that I couldn't get enough of. I wanted more. And I love how, you know, the main premise of this book, which I'm sure everyone who's watching this knows, is that the Thunderbolt, the Master Thunderbolt, was stolen from Zeus. And if it isn't returned by the end of the summer solstice, then, you know, there will be a World War III. And I love the subtle build up to that as well, because even in chapter 2, we have like a thunderstorm blow out the windows in my dorm room. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever was spotted in Hudson Valley. And, you know, like, the bad weather that's happening is building and building to something a lot more exciting and bigger than we even think possible at this point in the story. And even in chapter 2, we come across the Fates, and they are just like 3 old women who are knitting these socks. And I'm just like, I love the way that Greek mythology and Greek gods, or any kind of Greek thing, was incorporated in the story. I thought it was so good in a modern perspective, like how, say, Olympus was like the 600th floor on the Empire State Building, for instance, and like you had to go all the way up to the top. And even when Percy goes to it later on, and he goes past the clouds, and like he sees like this amazing thing, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, like the imagination is so good. And I also want to point out as well that I did try and do some like research after this, because I wanted to see what other people thought of the book. I knew like it had a lot of fans, but I didn't realize so many people think this is a Harry Potter ripoff. And let me just say, like, Harry Potter is not original itself. Like, I don't say this as a Harry Potter ripoff at all. I mean, it's absolutely fine if you do, but I genuinely don't say that whatsoever. And while there might be some similarities and comparisons you can make, like, it probably wasn't intentional. You know, nothing is original in this day and age. And we are just presented this really good story that I genuinely did not want to put down. I found it so fun. And this is going to be so rambly, so it might be a little bit all over the place. But one thing that I genuinely love about this as well is kind of the introduction into the magical world, which ended up with, you know, Percy having to run away from home with his mum, and Grover and the Minotaur getting his mum. And it seemed like she had died. And honestly, I forgot. I read this, like, this is my third time now. And I had forgotten about the mother storyline and the sacrifices that she made for her son. The fact that she was with that horrible sleazy guy for as long as she did to protect Percy. The relationships in this, the strength of family, I think the theme of family is so important and incredible. And Percy is a character too. He does have his flaws. He can get quite, you know, angry quite quickly, and I think this did a fantastic job at showing Percy as a flawed character, but somebody who has so much heart and strength that you can really see the progression from the first page to the last page in how he deals with situations, the quick thinking that he ends up coming up with, not being led too quickly with his emotions, but, you know, having those emotions is still a good thing. And the dynamic between his mum and him is just so wonderful, in my opinion. And yeah, I love the scene as well, like later on when he's in the underworld. They have the three pills, right? And that's the only way to get out of the underworld. And Percy has this opportunity to get his mum safe right there and then, but he decides that he can't do that right now. Like, it isn't the right thing to do just then. He could have easily, you know, saved his mum right there and then, and it could have sacrificed one of his friends, but he didn't do that. He is just, oh, I love that decision so much. It was a decision that you could see was tearing him apart, but he still went forward. He knew what the greater good was, and he just continued on, and he was rewarded for that at the end too. So going back to, you know, finding out this, you know, incredible world, I love the idea of coming to Camp Half-Blood and what goes on there. I don't think I would personally be good at Camp Half-Blood. It sounds like a whole lot of socializing that I don't think I would have been able to have put up with at that age. All the activities and stuff, like, I'm not a very active person. The things that they do, the activities that they do, I wasn't ever really the biggest fan of camp. And even when I was at school and we would go to, like, Camp Dukeswood, I think it was called, when I was in, like, year 6 in primary school, I did not love it. In fact, actually, fun story, I wet the bed. And I was 10 years old. I was 10 years old. And I was in the top bunk in a sleeping bag, and I wet the bed. I hated it so much. I mean, I did like some of it because I was with my friends, but doing the activities, being out in the outdoors, which is great half the time, you know, I just want to have my own space sometimes, and it just doesn't seem like this was my most wanted place to visit. I mean, it would be amazing, maybe for a few days, just to see what it's like, and it sounds incredible, but it doesn't really fit my character. But it isn't a detriment to the story whatsoever. It's still quite magical, and I love Camp Half-Blood. I think it sounds like such a good idea. I just don't think I could live there. So yeah, we do have the quest now that Percy has to try and find the Master Bolt. He's given, like, some kind of prophecy. Like, some of it is cliche, I will say. Like, some of it is cliche. Getting a prophecy, you know, being the chosen one, having to go and do it, you're the only person who can do it. You know, that is cliche. But you know what? Sometimes cliches are great. It really does give that classic fantasy quest feeling, you know? Like, I don't see another way that we could have gone that route without the whole prophecy thing. And you know what? The prophecy was actually very intriguing because it indicated that he would be betrayed, that he wouldn't be able to save the thing that mattered most to him. But it felt right for the story. And again, like, this was written for teens. Like, you can't really take it too seriously. And I will always criticize, like, any middle grade or young adult book as an adult if I do think it's doing something wrong. And I genuinely don't think Percy Jackson has done something wrong with, you know, working to that cliche and still giving us an entertaining story. Oh, but yeah, Annabeth. I haven't even mentioned Annabeth yet. I really do love Annabeth. I remember from the movie too, I wasn't sure if I did love Annabeth. I don't know if I found her annoying. I like the actress from memory, but I can't, you know what, I went ahead and watched Percy Jackson 1 and 2 tonight, I just know it. I do remember I wasn't the biggest fan of the second film as much as the first film. I still thought it was good, because I went to the cinema to see it, but yeah, I don't think it gave me the same impressions as the first film. But I do think Annabeth as a character, I just totally loved from the start, really. Like, she is very clever, she is very smart, and she is such an asset to Percy and his adventure. Like, I don't think, like, he could have gone as far as he did without her and Grover. Like, it felt like a genuine trio. It felt like genuine teamwork. Sometimes Grover would be the one to save them, sometimes it would be Percy, sometimes it would be Annabeth. You know, it was like a very equal thing. And I love, like, little references to, like, Hilary Duff. Just, this is so 2000s, and I I freaking love that, okay? As a kid in the 2000s, I was going into teenhood in the 2000s, so this just like hits especially harder because of that. So all like the little cultural references I just genuinely adored. But yeah, the plot really picks up. They're on this quest. Again, there isn't a boring moment on this quest. We meet Medusa, and I love that scene too. And from what I remember, definitely different to the film. I remember liking Uma Thurman. I thought she was great. I also love that Grover was also given his own kind of dream. I don't remember this from previous readings or anything, but the fact that he wants to try and find Pan and he wants to be a searcher, it's his life dream. I love giving the other main characters another purpose. Like, they're not just there to be Percy's wingman or, you know, just to accompany him on this adventure so that the chosen one can get all the glory at the end. They each have their own kind of dreams and ambitions. And Annabeth, like, you can tell she really wants to explore the world and, like, be out in the real world and stuff because she hasn't had a good opportunity enough to do that. And there are moments when you really feel for her too. Like, you can sympathize with her when she's talking to Percy about it. And when, you know, I think it's when they go to Las Vegas and she is, like, so excited to do things. Like, you can really feel her excitement. You can really feel that she genuinely wants to be out in the real world, and her ambitions and dreams are really felt because of that. I also genuinely cannot tell you if there's going to be romance between Percy and Annabeth at this point. There was that moment when Ares gave them another sort of quest where they have to retrieve a backpack at this like waterland thing, and Percy asks her to go on the thrill ride of love, and she's like, how embarrassing is that? What if somebody saw me? And she kind of like makes this like big deal out of it. That's kind of cute because again, like, these are teens and this is like a really confusing time in your life. You don't really know stuff about romance, and you know, it's just so sweet. But I don't know if anything is going to happen with them. I have no clue about the future of the Percy Jackson books. I can't remember anything about Sea of Monsters, so after this book, I know genuinely nothing. I did write as well that those kids are dumb, because they kept getting themselves into situations where they kind of should have learned from their lesson of meeting a stranger earlier, and yet they don't take their own advice from earlier, and they do it anyway. Like the whole scene at Las Vegas, when they go to the casino, and the guy is like, the bill's taken care of, no extra charges, no tips, just going up to the top floor, room 4001, if you need anything, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is too good to be true. And even they say it's too good to be true. Even Percy before that said, I learned to be suspicious this last week or so. I figured anybody might be a monster or a god. You just couldn't tell. But this guy was normal. One look at him and I could see. And you know, it's just, what a way to mislead us. Maybe he was just normal and stuff, but like, come on, like, this is a situation that you really shouldn't really be in right now. I think it was before that, either before or after, when they get to a place with like all these beds, and Krusty was had like got them attached to these beds. Actually no, I think it was after this because I think it was before the Underworld. You say like so much happens, actually it's kind of hard to remember which order it goes in sometimes. I almost forgot about this. I loved when he met the Spirit of the Sea, Nereid, I think. I love when he like actually goes down to like the sea floor and stuff, and he's like talking to this the Spirit of the Sea, and I love the, again, like the incorporation of it, the imagination of it, and with Percy's powers as well, because he is a son of Poseidon, like the water is something that is beneficial to him. And I just love that so freaking much. Again, I'm probably not making any sense. This is probably like really shit right now, but I'm just talking through the story, okay? And also, yeah, I forgot as well, I don't know if this happened in the film or not, but the fact that Percy is painted as a fugitive, wanted for the disappearance of his mother too, you could really feel the high stakes throughout. It's like, so many things fit into place that made this quest a lot more harder for Percy, and it just beautifully paid off by the end of it. And yet you still have Percy, the narrator, making the best out of the situation. On that happy thought, we turned our backs on the sea. It's like, again, like, he doesn't really take it too seriously. He's kind of having fun with everything that's going on, and so as a reader, you feel like you're having fun too. And the storyline's just like really starting to place. So yeah, I love the whole fugitive thing. I really do hope it's hammed up in the TV show also, because I really did feel that level of tension. And so many funny things as well. When they finally meet Charon to, you know, get to the underworld, he says, I don't suppose you have coins for passage. Normally with adults you say I could charge your American Express, while the ferry price to your last cable bill, but with children, alas, you never die prepared. Suppose you'll have to take a seat for a few centuries. Like, I love the, again, the modernization of something that's so classically Greek, and in the same vein as that myth. Let's just make it so like they have like their American Express card on them, and like that's how you can pay your way over the river Styx, you know? It's just so funny. And I feel like it does a good job as well in, you know, bringing in the modern day reader as a teenager too, as you're reading this. And I do think that even as an adult, you should absolutely be able to read these kinds of books and still enjoy them. But like, say as a teen reader who's reading for the first time, like this might be someone's first book. It might be the thing that gets people in love with reading. reading gets people in love with Greek myth. And I just feel like adding that element of modernization into it makes it more accessible and easier to digest. While a lot of people will need to do their own research after this about the whole like Greek myth angle of it, like, oh, this actually happened with this god, or, you know, this is what this god does. Like, you do need to still do your research after it. I still think this takes such great creative liberties with all of those Greek myths and makes it like one coherent story. And yeah, just on that same note as well, just like little nuggets of information like this when they're in the underworld and Percy sees some food. I had a sudden desire to eat them, but then I remembered the story of Persephone. One bite of underworld food and we would never be able to leave. I pulled Grover away to keep him from picking a big juicy one. Like little nuggets like that is, you know, very true to Greek myth. So I love that we can still have that and still be part of the story. It's not just throwing facts at you. It's not like a boring history lesson or anything like that. It is genuinely fun incorporation into a fictional story. So yeah, I really enjoyed the talk with Hades. I love the fact that we have Percy with this backpack that he got from Ares actually have the missing bolt inside of it. Like, how damning is that? Like, that was very exciting. And also, Hades's helm is missing too. So we have someone who stole Zeus's bolt and Hades's helm in order to try and make this really big war. And it all leads to the fact that I think it was Kronos who is, you know, captured, like he can't get out of his cell, but he has been orchestrating this whole thing and he managed to infect Luke. And that was something that happened in the very final chapter. I believe it happened a lot earlier in the movie and Percy had this like big fight with him. I think that might be something that a lot of people took issue with. For someone who's read this 3 times now, I can't believe how much I forgot. You know how I said before about how this being so memorable? It's now memorable, okay, after the 3rd time of me reading it. Yeah, Percy defeats Ares, returns the bolt, the helm gets returned too. And yeah, you think it's all over now, but it's actually not. And I do love the fact that everything seems fine. And then, you know, like in the very final chapter when Percy is with Luke, you do feel like this, I guess, undercurrent of like sinisterism from Luke. If that's a word. And he seems so angry. Luke seems so very angry. He failed his own quest and he felt like he was failed by his father. There's a lot of daddy issues in this. And of course, because these gods, they do sleep with mortals, they have children, and they just leave. You know, there is a lot of stuff to unpack there. And so, like, there is an element of sympathy towards Luke, and the fact that Kronos can easily manipulate him by twisting his emotions. And none of their fathers are really, like, helping the situation, to be honest. I wonder if we're going to continue to look into that father-child dynamic as we go forward. And all of this stuff about, like, half-bloods and, like, feeling the darkness. It all sounds like such a convincing argument to come from Luke, but also from Kronos. You know, the way that he is so powerful and being able to easily manipulate people on the outside. Like the way he even came to Percy in his dreams, which I thought was really cool. But like with Luke being able to actually manipulate him to steal 2 big items, which I'm still like, how in the world did he manage to do that? And then also to get another god, Ares, on board too. It's so sinister and evil that I wonder, because yeah, I have no idea the direction of the series. I wonder if eventually Kronos will escape and that will be like the big bad. But let me just say, this was just absolutely bloody wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I would give it like 4.5, 5 stars. It ended on such a good note, like a really appealing note. I love the fact that Percy's mum, she came back, you know, she was still with her stepfather, but Percy gave her a gift that would, you know, turn him into a statue, which she ends up doing to help the family. And you know what? He bloody deserves it. He bloody deserves it. And you know, the fact that Percy picks his mum over staying at Camp Half-Blood as well is so good, like so beautiful. It really does pay off the emotions that Percy felt at the start and the distance he felt between him and his mum. And now that, you know, the stepfather's out of the way, who was abusive, by the way, and the way that he can sense and empathize with his mum and want to do what's right by her is just so wonderful. Like, he is just like a model child, in my honest opinion, in terms of like how he wants to look after his mother. You know, it's just so beautiful to see. And yeah, even Annabeth, who gets to go back to her family too and give that another try. And I just find that so beautiful. She wrote her dad a letter and she told him, I was sorry, I'd come home for the school year if he still wanted me. And he wrote back immediately and they give another try. Like, that's so good. I'm so happy about that. I think all the characters made the best decisions. And Grover as well is off on his adventure, his own adventure. So yeah, we end this book in a really good place that we honestly probably don't need any more books in the series. Like, this could have ended right here and then. It could have been a standalone, but I'm so glad it's not, because I think, you know, this world has so much potential. There are more gods and villains to uncover. There is more in Percy's, Annabeth's, and Grover's story. I just know it. This was a good one. And this was a good one. My friend Beth from Beth Bartholomew has just uploaded her Percy Jackson vlog. We ended up finding out that we're doing the exact same vlog at pretty much the same time. But I can't watch Beth's yet until I finish the series. So I will link it down in the description box if you want to check out Beth's video. In the meantime, I have just finished the second Percy Jackson book, The Sea of Monsters. I definitely didn't love this one as much as the first one. In fact, I think I am going to give each book a rating. I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I looked at my Goodreads and apparently a few years back when I first read it, I gave it 4 stars. But there were some things that came back to me that I remember from my first read that I kind of forgotten about. And I just didn't love this one, you know, I didn't love it. It was still good. It still gave me some really good warm feelings, and I just love being in this world. I love being with these characters. They're definitely becoming some like favorites of mine. But yeah, I didn't find the story as gripping as the first one. There were some moments in it that felt like it was trying to recapture the magic of the first one, and it kind of fell a little bit short. So in this one, we follow Percy again, like he is gone to a new public school, and he has met someone called Tyson, who I absolutely love. Oh my gosh, he's the cutest. He turns out to be a baby Cyclops, and also Percy's brother. So that was like something I definitely forgot about from the first read. And I do love the dynamic between Tyson and Percy at this public school, because Percy does defend Tyson. People are so nasty to him at school, and Percy is the only person who really tries to defend him. The R word is used in this, but you know, Percy does fight back against the person who used that word. So I'm kind of glad about that. And he lived in a New York alleyway, and he was, you know, abandoned. He doesn't know his family. He doesn't really have a family. So like Tyson, you really do feel so sorry for to begin with. He kind of has replaced Grover a little bit in this book, because in the first book, when we start off, Percy and Grover are at the school, and it's Grover who's getting picked on, and Percy has to protect him. And the same thing happens in here with Tyson. So that's kind of where I got the first initial feeling that we were retreading some of the same steps from the first book. I'm not saying it's too much of a bad thing. There are more repetitious moments that happen, and I also find it quite funny that Percy does sometimes get saved at the last minute also. I mean, sometimes he can save himself, but there are a lot of times when something just happens and Percy is saved and everything's kind of okay. So those moments kind of happen frequently too. This is such a typical middle grade opening as well. You know, we have the recap, or here's what you missed on Glee kind of moment at the start of the chapter, where we go through the events of the first book. And I don't usually love stuff like that, but I can forgive it because, you know, sometimes it's really necessary, especially since these books came out a year after one another. Some people might need the refresher, but when you're binging it, it doesn't quite feel as organic. And also another funny kind of middle grade trope is kind of getting the parent out the way. So even though Percy's mother is totally on board with him being a half-blood, and she knows about the whole world and stuff, and she wants to help him every now and then, this book also like kind of makes her just appear at the very start and then a phone call at the end. And I do wish we do get more Percy and his mum, because like he can feel honest around her. Like he can tell her, you know, any kind of problem and she will understand, which is totally different to usual middle grade books. A lot of middle grade books, adults don't believe the children, you know, parents don't believe their children, and it's so nice to actually see his really supportive parent. But yeah, we have this like really fun dodgeball fight at school. Percy, Tyson versus a few other people, like a school bully, and then some other monsters that have made their way into the school. So that was all fun. And then Annabeth appears out of nowhere. And like, I mean, I'm glad Annabeth did, but you know, some of these things just felt a little bit more silly in this book, and I'm going to go through a couple of moments that felt silly again, like coming up. And I know I said this in the first book, you know, it's very entertaining, the plot is very quick, and it's just like a good time, you know, it's a good time. You can't take it too seriously. It's just here to entertain, and entertain it does. But you know, like things like Annabeth showing up out of nowhere, I didn't just love the way that she kind of just dropped in, you know, I just didn't love that. What I did love though was the taxi to Camp Half-Blood. I love the fact that Annabeth dropped a coin and it like disappeared through the floor, and the asphalt darkened, it melted into a rectangular pool about the size of a parking space, bubbling red liquid like blood, then a car erupted from the ooze. And I think I remember this part from the movie, I think. It might not have even happened in the movie, but I think it did. I just remember there being a taxi and the characters being in the back seat and it's just going all over the place. I forgot it was the Grey Sisters that were driving it though, and the Grey Sisters just have one eye between them, and the person who's driving doesn't have the eye, and it's just so bonkers and good. Like, this is the good kind of ridiculous that I'm looking for in this book, you know, like the incorporation of that myth again to make it more modern. It just hilariously fits in. Where again, like, I just think characters appearing out of nowhere, it doesn't quite hit the same. But I love the taxi scene. And you know what? It's made me want to rewatch the first and second movie. I think I'm going to do that tonight. You know, I've actually read this quicker than I thought I would. I think I'm going to rewatch the films tonight. I think that's what's going to happen. Yep, love the taxi scene. They also give him, like, coordinates, which, again, like, some of the things that happen are a little bit convenient. Some of the things that Percy does on his quest kind of gets handed to him. Like, say, for instance, when Hermes gives Percy this, like, duffel bag with loads of, like, cash and clothes and all the stuff that he needs for this quest. It just, again, it just feels like very convenient that Percy gets handed so much, which, again, like, it makes sense as well because Hermes is providing Percy a way of escaping Camp Half-Blood in order to find this golden fleece. Okay, so I should probably tell you what this book is actually about, like the actual plot of this book. So, one, Grover has been coming to Percy in his dreams and he is in danger, and he's also made this, like, emotional bond thing where if Grover dies, then, I mean, Percy might not die, but he could be in, like, a vegetative state, or something bad would happen to Percy as well. I didn't love that. I did not love that, because it just felt like Grover was toying with Percy's life without any permission to do so, and it just felt a little bit selfish to do that, you know? I mean, again, like, I know they're probably, like, 13 in this one now, so it's not, although actually, no, Grover's older, because Grover was, like, 28 or something in the previous book. So, you know, I didn't love that Grover did that. It was kind of a really bad move on a friend part. I know he felt really cornered because of his situation. He's about to get married to a Cyclops, which I didn't love that whole storyline either. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. But yeah, Grover was getting married to the Cyclops, so the only way of escaping, I guess, was to make this emotional bond with Percy. I mean, I don't know why I couldn't just, like, continue, you know, talking to Percy and, you know, conversing with him in his dreams and getting him to where he is. I don't really fully understand why he had to do that emotional bond that could kill them both. But also another big thing is that Thalia's tree, which is right outside of Camp Half-Blood, it's what protects Camp Half-Blood, has been poisoned and it's slowly dying. So Percy needs to find the Golden Fleece, which should hopefully help heal the tree and stop monsters from attacking Camp Half-Blood and protect it. Before we move on to the quest though, I will say I wasn't a big fan of Percy during the Camp Half-Blood scenes either. For instance, with Tyson, who again just absolutely idolizes Percy, really looks up to him, he loves Percy. Percy starts to get really frustrated with Tyson. I can totally understand the frustration and stuff, but when we move from Percy protecting Tyson at this school, like the public school, to then Camp Half-Blood, where he isn't that nice to him, he treats him like an embarrassment and almost like tries to get away from him. It feels quite mean-spirited, and it didn't cast Percy in a very nice light. So Tyson gets claimed by Poseidon as his son, which makes him the brother of Percy. And I guess it's just the way that Percy goes about that. I mean, I can understand it's complex. Those feelings are very raw, and especially to do with the whole daddy issue situations that all of these, you know, half-bloods have. So when he says, in me, as much as I like the big guy, I couldn't help feeling embarrassed, ashamed, there I said it. So he admits to feeling embarrassed and ashamed that Tyson is his brother. And even when people kind of tease him about it, he goes, he's not my real brother, I protested whenever Tyson wasn't around. He's more like a half-brother on the monstrous side of the family, like a half-brother twice removed or something. Nobody bought it. It's like, it feels mean, you know, like we go from him really defending Tyson at the school to him being like, oh, he's not my real brother. You know, it's like, why? Like, why even say that to the people who are, like, teasing you about the fact that you're brothers? Like, why do you care? Tyson saved your life. He saved your life during that bloody dodgeball game, and this is kind of how you repay him when he's not around as well. Like, he knows this is wrong. He knows he's ashamed to admit it. But it's like, I didn't love Percy during this moment. And I remember having those same feelings when I first read it a few years back. I remember not loving this one then either, but I just couldn't fully put my finger on why. And I do remember my conflicted feelings over Percy in this one, because also Percy doesn't really kind of learn from the first book when it comes to stranger danger and his encounters. It seems like he goes from like he just falls into so many monster traps like so easily, and yeah, I just thought maybe he would have like learned a lot more from the first book than he actually did. And again, it feels like maybe I'm criticizing a lot more than I probably should be. It's just, yeah, I just hyper fixated on that because we still have the like exciting moments. Don't get me wrong, the exciting moments still come. We have the whole quest now of finding this golden fleece, except it was actually Clarisse. Yeah, Clarisse. I for a second I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. Yeah, Clarisse, daughter of Ares, will save the camp. So the new person who's like running the camp, Tantalus. Yeah, Tantalus from the underworld. He's replaced Chiron. Not Charon, Chiron. Pierce Brosnan from the movies. Chiron got fired for not protecting the tree, and he's essentially like blamed for it. So we have like a new person running the camp who ends up giving the quest to Clarisse. And if you remember Ares from the first book, he betrayed Percy. He's the one who had the bolt in the backpack that he gave Percy, and he's working for Kronos and Luke. So it's a bit of a tricky situation with Clarisse. I do like Clarisse, especially after reading this book. You can see how conflicted she is, you know, kind of honouring her family versus being a good person. And the fact that she does end up trying to do this quest herself, and kind of, I do feel a bit bad for her, and even Percy admits it as well, about feeling bad for kind of hijacking her quest. And I really enjoyed the fact that he sympathised with her a lot on doing that. And he gives her the fleece at the end, you know, when they finally get the fleece from the Cyclops. They give her it and she goes back to Camp Half-Blood on her own. It's like part of the prophecy, and she, you know, gets the golden fleece back to the camp. So the dynamic between Percy and Clarisse is definitely a lot more complex than what it used to be. And I like that. I really do. So yeah, Hermes visits Percy and gives him all of the things that he's going to need on this quest, because again, I do find that a little bit convenient, but you know, I can't complain too much. Yeah, there's a big cruise ship that they end up going on, which Luke is actually on as well. Luke, I'm wondering if he might have some kind of redemption arc at some point. I don't know why. I guess it's because of all of the daddy issues that everyone has, and I don't agree with Luke, of course. Like, I don't want Kronos to come back because he sounds bloody evil and he's going to cause a lot of death and destruction. But Luke does feel wronged, and he even thinks that the gods just like keep playing them. You know, it's not just his dad who he feels wronged by, but just the gods in general. And it is unfair as half-bloods to be treated that way. I understand that. Typical gods, when you say they fight with one another and the poor humans get caught in the middle, like, he does have some points. And it looks like Percy does strike a chord when he talks about Hermes to Luke. He says, he told me he won't give up on you no matter how angry you are. And that seems to spark something in Luke. He gets angry. So I'm just wondering if maybe at one point Luke might have some kind of redemption, or maybe he'll understand more about like where his father comes from. This is also another thing explored in this about the like deadbeat dads of them being gods and stuff. They have always kind of guided them, which, you know, it seems like Poseidon guided Tyson to Percy, which led Tyson to saving Percy. And just like there's so many things that they are pulling the strings for that have helped their children. I mean, they haven't been there for them like typical fathers, like mortal fathers, I guess. You know, things probably work so much differently with gods. But yeah, it's still like these children are getting their feelings hurt by family. And that's kind of what the underlining theme is for the feelings of these characters. I also did not love it when Percy got turned into a guinea pig. I was just kind of like, okay, like, is this the best we can really do in the sequel to The Lightning Thief? That itself, again, felt a little bit ridiculous. Oh yeah, this is what I meant about, like, Percy not really learning from the first one. There's a random monster donut shop that appears, and Annabeth's, like, very suspicious, and she says, this shouldn't be here, it's wrong. And Percy just goes, what? I asked. It's a donut shop. Like, how many times did they run into a normal-looking place in the first book that turned out to have a monster in it? Like, more times than I can actually count. So the fact that Percy doesn't automatically question that as well, they're in the middle of nowhere. So it's like, yeah, you probably should think that this monster donut shop is suspicious, you know? That's kind of just, again, my points are all over the place. I'm just, like, going back and forth here. But there are things that I just thought Percy should have learned by now. I did love when the Hydra came, though. I love the Hydra. I think it's such a good kind of monster. I also love it in Kingdom Hearts too. It's so good. We go back and forth with like Grover as well, trying to delay this wedding. Again, don't really love that storyline. It just didn't do anything for me. Oh, this moment between Ares and Clarisse, when Clarissa's talking about, you know, the quest, and he goes, "You don't want to see me mad, do you?" She goes, "No, father." "No, father," Ares mimicked. "You're pathetic. I should have let one of my sons take this quest." "I'll succeed," Clarissa promised, her voice trembling. "I'll make you proud." How can you not feel bad for Clarissa at this moment? Like, Ares seems like such a dick of a dad. Calling her pathetic. I can see a lot of these kids have so much pressure on them to appease their parents, appease the gods. And like, that's crushing. That is so much pressure. I can't even imagine having that on my own shoulders. I did like how in the majority of this book was set on the sea too, which is Percy's domain, really. And I like the whole part with like the sirens. Oh, and we also got mention of Edward Teach, son of Ares. I last though most call me Blackbeard. And I'm just thinking of One Piece. I'm thinking of One Piece. If you know, you know. I love One Piece, by the way. It's in manga and anime. And yeah, there is a character in that called Blackbeard, which you guys know Blackbeard. Very famous pirate. But yeah, I love Percy being in the sea because it also examined like Annabeth's own flaws. And she mentions like a fatal flaw, and it seems like every single god does have a fatal flaw, like a way of taking them down, like some vulnerability. And it's the same with the demigods, apparently, like the half-bloods. And apparently Annabeth's is hubris, which means deadly pride. And it's kind of interesting to find out what like Percy's fatal flaw would be. And I thought this book did such a good job at exploring Annabeth even more. And I do wish that we got way more of Grover that wasn't making his story marrying a Cyclops, you know what I mean? I would have loved to have seen a bit more of him because I kind of missed the dynamic between the three of them from the first book. So yeah, they end up getting to the Cyclops' island, and that's where the Golden Fleece is. And I'm just a little bit like, okay, they couldn't find this for what, 3,000 years or something? You're telling me not a single person, not a single god, not a single demigod, no one ever found this fleece? And yet these kids do that on pretty much their first try. I just didn't make a whole lot of sense. But I guess, you know, when prophecy comes into play, I guess that does explain away a whole lot of these kinds of plot holes. I guess it just wasn't fated for someone else to find the Golden Fleece. It's almost like it had to happen at this moment in time. So yeah, I guess that makes sense, but sometimes that's a little bit hard to swallow. I kind of just talked myself into that explanation. That might not even be true, but I guess that kind of would explain why nobody else found it, but these kids at this random moment in time. So yeah, they managed to get away from the Cyclops. It wasn't as, you know, like with it being called the Sea Monsters, I don't think it felt as epic as I had in my head. Don't get me wrong, there was definitely a Sea of Monsters. But, you know, the whole interaction with the Cyclops didn't really blow me away. Percy gives Clarissa the Golden Fleece so that she can go ahead and get it to the camp. For a scary moment, I saw things from her point of view. How would I feel if a bunch of other heroes had butted in and made me look bad? Yeah, exactly. It's your quest, I said. We only have enough money for one flight, besides I can't travel by air, blah, blah, blah. That's what the prophecy meant. You'd fail without friends, meaning you'd need our help, but you'd have to fly home alone. You have to get the fleece back safely. Percy does show so much character growth and strength through moments like this. There are just like other times when it kind of is let down a little bit by common sense. But, you know, this was great. And then Luke comes into it. And honestly, Luke at this point just annoys me. Hey, cuz, welcome back to the States. Like, just get out of here. I loved Percy's plan of making Luke reveal that he's the one who poisoned the tree to the entirety of Camp Half-Blood so that they can hear it. And then that way Tantalus gets like kicked off of the island and then Kieran comes back. Again, I'm going to struggle with character names and pronunciations, I apologize. So I like the way that he outed that. There was like a little bit of a battle. And yeah, this is actually when Kieran comes out of nowhere and saves the day. There was a wild chorus of war cries and hooves. And then, yeah, Kieran was there among the crowd. And this is just before Luke was going to let the Bear brothers devour, like, Annabeth and them. I can't believe the lengths that Luke will go to be evil at this point. But yeah, they come out of nowhere, save the day. I do like the callback to the very second chapter of the first book, when Percy saw the Fates and they cut the string. Last time of the Omen from the Fates, when I saw them snip somebody's life string, I thought it meant I was going to die right away. But it's worse than that. It's got something to do with your prophecy, the death they foretold. It's going to happen when I'm 16. So I'm really interested to find out what's going to actually happen on Percy's 16th birthday. It's being kept such a mystery from pretty much everyone. I don't know if Kieran does know everything and he's just like hiding it from Percy to protect him. But a lot of times in these kinds of situations, turns out that by lying or keeping secrets doesn't always work out in the best way possible. So I'm kind of intrigued what this is going to mean for Percy going forward. We do get a little letter from Poseidon telling Percy to brace himself. We unfortunately have to say goodbye to Tyson, who is going to work at the Cyclops Forges. Poseidon had invited him to visit, so that he can do that, which obviously like stirs some feelings in Percy because he's never been invited to go underwater and see him. But you know, earlier in the book, Percy probably would have made a big deal out of that. But now at the end of the book, he has gone on some character journey and had some character growth, that jealousy is kind of squished straight away, and he's actually pretty proud of his brother and very happy for him. But yeah, we're saying goodbye to Tyson. I do hope he comes back. I really did like him. I felt so bad for him, so maybe that's more of it. Like, I feel more bad for him than anything else. And then we end with a pretty good cliffhanger, actually. There is a girl at the like foot of the tree, and she turns out to be Thalia, daughter of Zeus. But like, I thought she was supposed to be like the tree kind of thing, you know? It's like the Golden Fleece seemed to have worked too well because, you know, it does heal and it started to protect the camp again. But Thalia was made into this tree. So while I think she is the tree, a part of me is kind of being a little bit suspicious. I'm very wary about trusting characters in this series at this point. We have been betrayed and burned in the past. So I'm keeping an eye on Thalia. Or is it Thalia? And there were moments before this too, when I think it was both Luke and Annabeth who were kind of questioning whether Percy and Thalia would actually get on. So, like, I think they said, like, oh, they would either be, like, brother and sister, or they would kill each other, or something like that. So now I'm very intrigued by why that was brought up, if it was going to lead to something. So I kind of worry that this will be a new villain for Percy, but also really happy about that too, because that just means more excitement, more danger in the future. There's just so much that you can take away from this and really enjoy. Don't get me wrong, I still like it, but it's still only a 3-star for me. I thought it was a bit of a step down from the first book, so I feel what I feel. I do think that's probably going to be up from here. Sometimes I do find second books or like direct sequels to a first book to have such a huge mountain to climb. It's happened so many times when the second book hasn't just like quite lived up to the first book. But again, not a bad book though. It's still not a bad book. 3 stars is still a good rating. And now I get to move on to books I haven't even read yet. So everything in this is so brand new. Although I would argue that most of this felt brand new to me. The amount of stuff I forgot. Whew. And yeah, these ones feel so much bigger as well. So, well, apart from this one, obviously. But I'm very excited about what the future holds because I am going in so clueless. I am so hungry. I have just ordered some Chinese food and I am about to put on the very first Percy Jackson film. Literally no shame. I have no shame. But also, can I just point out, when this first came out, I had the biggest crush on Logan Lerman, okay? That might have also factored into why I loved Percy Jackson so much. I was a teen, okay? I didn't know better. I already know this is just going to be so much fun. Comedy came out 13 years ago. Jeez. To be fair, Poseidon can get it. Hello, Ashley. Come to watch the film with me? Yes. Hello. Hello. The movie does highlight, right at the very beginning, this talk between Zeus and Poseidon. How ridiculous it kind of is for Zeus to think that Poseidon's son has stolen his powers. You know, like, it is a bit ridiculous to think that. How does he think somebody, a teenage boy who has no idea of anything that's gone on, how does Zeus even think that? How did he get to that conclusion? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know?
But the school is supposed to make things better.
Percy, I know how hard this is for you. But someday it'll all make sense.
Really? When?
So after saying that, and having the book fresh in my mind, yeah, it's not a good adaptation. It's still entertaining though, I will stand by that. It did entertain me, but the way that it just goes by so quickly, a lot of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you put it all together. I didn't even really like Annabeth by the time that she joined the freaking group going on this quest. You only see her like, really one time before, well, 2 times before, but like we have one major interaction with her before this quest thing, and she is like slicing Percy Jackson up. Like, she is not nice. And there's like no character emotion there. Like, I didn't give a shit about what Annabeth wanted by that point. I didn't know what Grover's hopes and dreams were. You know, like the way that the book presents them and makes them feel fully fleshed out, even before going on this journey, and even during it. It was definitely way too quick. I know they would have had a lot of constraints with it being a movie, and it's like 2 hours long, and obviously they had to cut a lot out, but it was just a little bit too rapid fire. And the plot of Percy Jackson, the book, is rapid fire. It goes pretty quickly, and I love that about the book, but at least each set piece kind of connects one after the other, and it has this really good flow, and it doesn't sacrifice character to do that. And this one, I remember really enjoying this more, like years and years and years and years ago. It's been at least 6 or 7 years, maybe more, since I last watched it, so it was not as good as I remember. But that poker face scene, though, it still hits. It still hits. But yeah, you could really feel, I think probably like the first half of the film and just like trying to get into the quest, it felt a little bit clunky. The dialogue felt really cringe at times, and it just makes me that much more excited for the Disney Plus adaptation. It really does. But still, if I want to just watch something that's just pure entertainment and you can tune your brain off during it, then yeah, Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief is the one. So now we're going to get into Sea of Monsters, actually. Yeah, I think I've only ever seen it the once, and that was while I was in the cinema when it first came out, 2013. It's been 10 years since I last watched this one, and I only ever remember watching it once in cinemas. Also, there was the Hydra scene in the movie of Percy Jackson 1 when the Hydra was actually in Percy Jackson 2, the book. So that's a fun little tidbit, I guess. This one's a little bit shorter than the first one, so at least it'll go quicker. But the thing is, though, I could have read the entirety of book 3 instead of watching the two films. The two films put together is like 3.5 hours. Yeah, I could have read the entire third book in that time. I just like to make some bad decisions sometimes. But you know what, actually, it's kind of nice to be able to just sit and watch and still be at least somewhat entertained.
I'm Percy Jackson, son of Poseidon, god of the sea.
Okay, the flashback at the start of Say Monsters. How could Talia the Tree protect Camp Half-Blood with that barrier, right? Where was it in the first Percy Jackson film? Because the Minotaur managed to get quite close to Camp Half-Blood, definitely past that barrier that showed up at the start of the second movie. And yeah, that's a flashback to when Annabeth was a child. So it was like years before the first movie. I knew this was in the film. I remember it.
If we didn't know what we were doing, we wouldn't be licensed. No.
Even though the second film was shorter than the first one, it felt longer. It was so bloated. And again, like, it is entertaining. It's Hollywood. It had a lot of set pieces. And I like the taxi scene. I liked it when they get the Bermuda Triangle and they go into that thing's stomach. I like the fights. Like, it is good as a film. But it did nothing for me in terms of the characters. The way that Tyson got introduced as well, like, I didn't feel any connection to him. Same with Clarice, and it just, yeah, it was just a bit messy, honestly. It felt very messy. Not to take away from younger me from 10 years ago, when I remember kind of liking the film, although a part of me is still interested to see what they would have done with a third film. And yeah, the fact that Kronos had been resurrected by Luke, that happened. That did not happen in the second book. What is that about? What is that about? And I totally forgot that even happened when I had first watched the film. So that just confused the life out of me that was happening. But again, that was just like far too much for one film. Way too much. There was just no flow again. I am more than ready to get back to reading the books now. I am about halfway through the third Percy Jackson book, and I'm taking a break because in around about 1 minute, the pre-sale early access for the Illumicrate Percy Jackson set is going to go live. And I have been sent reminders because I've been really worried that I would forget, and I really, really want to get these. So pray for me. Hopefully I get them. So it's currently 14:58. So that should turn to 59 any second now. I'm literally just sitting here watching the clock at this moment in time, doing absolutely nothing. Oh, it's just turned to 14:59, okay? 1 minute. 1 minute until we get the link. Hopefully it comes through on time. It does say, you know, early access does begin Tuesday the 12th of December at 3 p.m. GMT, and that's in 1 minute. And honestly, the amount of reminders I've had set, even like days before, I really want these because they are beautiful. Have you seen them? They are absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And considering like how much I'm enjoying the series, and again, like I've read the first 2 books before, I knew I would get these and like these, and you know, it's just come through. Oh my god, it's like literally $14.59. Oh my gosh, private pre-sale. Okay, I've got the password. Okay, click to order. Oh my god, it's like literally, it's still $14.59, and I have the early access link. Oh my god, add to basket. Oh my god, it's so expensive. Proceed to checkout. It's still $14.59. It's not even 3 p.m. yet. It's not even 3 p.m. Sign in. Come on, you could do this. Alright, it's just turned 3 p.m. I just have a feeling they're going to sell out pretty quickly, so I need to get on this. The only previous ones that I've gotten from Illumicrate are the Bridgerton set, and that was last year. Yes, I agree. Continue. Gosh, £130. That's so expensive. I should not be buying this so close to Christmas. And especially not as a present for myself. Pay now. Come on. Oh, confirm using the PayPal app. God damn, why so many steps? Why? And it's really easy to do, but I'm just like, come on. Give me the confirmation right now. Give it. It's 1501. 1501. Confirm. Come on. So many steps. Come on. Did I get it? Yay! Thank you, Gavin. Oh, yay, it worked. I've just got the confirmation email as well. Yay! Okay, that was like a really silly little break in this vlog, but I just really wanted it. And yay, I have it. It's coming. I don't know when it's coming. When is it getting shipped? Oh, they will be shipping around March and April. Okay, so not too long. Only about like 3 or 4 months to go. But yay, we got it. Are you actually kidding me? I had such a lovely day today, you know, as I was buying that really expensive Percy Jackson Illumicrate set. And then I finished the next half of this book and like, why? Why is there such a dark tonal shift? There were, I think, 2 deaths and I got really sad. I got really sad while reading this book. And I will say though, that one of the deaths, I'm not 100% sure if it's actually a death yet, because we didn't say a body, but I'm assuming that they are, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% convinced. But the other one, which is a literal death, like you do say what happens to the body afterwards and stuff, it's like, oh, I was getting so teared up and so emotional about it. So this one does, again, like follow a very similar premise to the previous couple of books. Well, you know, still being a bit different, but, you know, like for instance, I feel like Annabeth and Grover kind of switched roles a little bit. So, you know how like Grover was in need of saving in the second book? Well, it turns out that Annabeth is also in need of saving in this book, and Percy had dreams about both of them each time, and even though there were different circumstances and different ways in which, you know, they were connected, it still felt like very similar and almost like we were treading the same kind of things as we did in like the previous book. But I will say like this is way better than book 2. As much as I really did miss the dynamic between Annabeth, Grover and Percy, we haven't really felt that very strongly since the first book, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that maybe in the 4th book, all 3 of them will be together the majority of the book and not be, you know, split up again. So in this one, at the very start, Grover has asked for help because he has discovered a couple of demigods in this school. They are Bianca and Nico. And to begin with, I didn't really care a whole great deal about them just yet. Like from the beginning, I was like, yeah, you know, they're twins. They seem pretty interesting. And there is something about them that is very mysterious that I do want to learn more about. But at that time as well, I was just like, I just want to focus on my main characters. I want to see them work together a little bit more. But during this encounter at this school where we meet Dr. Thorne, who actually turns out to be Manticore, and it kind of gave me flashbacks to the second movie last night when I think it was a Manticore. It had like this big scorpion thing when it like stung Annabeth and like she died for 2 seconds. in the movie. Obviously that didn't happen in this, but she was taken, she was kidnapped during this whole encounter at this school. And it was a very good opening. I liked it. But I didn't automatically fall in love with like Bianca or Nico like I kind of did with Tyson. But I think with Tyson as well, it was just like a lot of empathy towards him. Like I felt sorry for him before I like really liked him as a character who stood on his own 2 feet. So it took a little bit more getting used to Bianca, for instance, especially since we spent a good deal with Bianca. The jury is still a little bit out on Nico. I'm not 100% sure whether I like him or not. I do understand some of the things he goes through at the end of the book, but I still find him, and I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, I found him a little bit annoying. There was a great twist to do with them though, like with Bianca and Nico. Like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. Like, again, like this one had me flabbergasted a little bit, like how in the previous book with like Talia and being the daughter of Zeus, and you know, with that whole prophecy about one of, you know, the children of the big three, you know, which are Hades, Zeus, and Poseidon, and now we have this other person, this other child by one of the big three, and that prophecy about, you know, one of them destroying the world essentially, or destroying Olympus, and not knowing who it is. Like, is it Percy, is it Talia? But, or actually no, I think it's Thalia. I was watching the film last night and they were calling her Talia, but I don't think that's correct. I've been listening to the audiobook as I've been reading physically too, and the audiobook narrator said Thalia, so I'm gonna go with Thalia. But then we discover, oh my god, we discover that Nico and Bianca are actually Hades' children. And, you know, they were actually at the Lotus Hotel and they were trapped in there for such a long time. And I just love the connection there, because that connects to the first book when Annabeth and Percy and Grover were stuck in the Lotus Hotel. They were in there what they thought was like an hour, but turned out to be like a lot longer than that. And that's what the Lotus Hotel does. And Nico and Bianca had been in there themselves, and they had been in there for years, absolutely years, and it turns out that they are Hades' children. And I think this was like before it was like forbidden to you know, create any like demigods, or for like the big three to copulate with other people, mortals, because of the whole prophecy thing. But I mean, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but then Bianca, she dies, or at least we think she dies. I'm not 100% sure if she does, but she kind of sacrifices herself unknowingly, because there was like, she went inside the foot of this Talos machine thing, and yeah, Bianca goes inside of it, but then this Talos thing gets electrocuted, so you kind of assume that Bianca's been electrocuted inside, and like, I don't know if like she is gone. I don't know if she is dead. They say she is. I mean, it was said in the prophecy that one of them would die in the land without rain, and you know, that does lead towards Bianca dying. But I don't know, again, I need to see a body. So I just jumped all over the shop there with this plot. But I feel like I just want to talk more about like the important things that happened. Like that whole dynamic there. Nico, Bianca, Percy. So Percy, Bianca, Nico, and Thalia are the people that this prophecy could talk about. Except now, Thalia has joined the hunters, and that ties into Artemis, who is the goddess of the hunt, I believe. I'm not really that 100% sure about Greek mythology. I'm still learning myself. I'm not that clued up on it, so some of the first times I'm hearing of things is from this. I had heard of Artemis beforehand, of course, but you know, little details and stuff don't really like stick with me just yet, because I don't know the entire lore of these like mythological beings. But yeah, Thalia has now become a hunter, and not just at Percy, right, for that prophecy about the downfall of the gods. However, at the very end, we discover that, yeah, Nico is Hades' son as well. And I'm just like, is Nico going to be like the next villain or something? Because I do feel bad for him when Percy said to him, oh, Bianca is dead. And, you know, Nico was like, but you promised me, you said that you would protect her. And then he was like, I wish you had died instead, or something like that. And I was like, okay, I could totally get it, because he's a child, he's still a child, and he has just lost his sister. They've gone through so much together. He's angry. But like, yeah, I still find him a little bit annoying. I wonder if he is going to be like the new Luke, and I don't know if maybe he's going to try and get revenge, and he is going to be the one who the prophecy is leading to. Because interesting thing about Luke as well, Luke during this book, I mentioned in the previous book, I think Luke might have some kind of redemption arc. He doesn't really have one in this one, but he does look exhausted. He looks tired. He looks drained. He did do the whole, like, the Titan's Curse is like the holding up the sky thing that, oh my god, all their names are like, there's so many people's names begin with A. Artemis was holding up the sky. However, it was Atlas who was supposed to be holding up the sky. And Atlas is Zoe's father. And I haven't even mentioned Zoe yet because, again, I'm just going all over the place. I've just finished this, okay? Let me digest this like Kronos did with his children. So let me go back a little bit more again. Atlas is the Titan who holds up the sky. However, what's the name again? It begins with A. It's not Apollo. Artemis. So Artemis and Annabeth are, you know, trapped by Atlas. The whole point of this book really is to save them. Where was I going now? I've been trying so hard to remember people's names, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, yeah, so Atlas is the Titan who's supposed to hold the sky. Father to Zoe. Zoe is Artemis's lieutenant, right? And you know what, like, I do really enjoy these books, right? But all of these characters, and there were so many new characters brought into this book, it kind of confused me a little bit. Zoe is Artemis's lieutenant. And Zoe at the start, so like they get to Camp Half-Blood after the whole school encounter, and the prophecy is said, what's the prophecy? Let me read out the prophecy. There's just so many prophecies in these books now. You know, it's very handy to have a prophecy because it is a little bit like guidelines, isn't it? Like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, okay, I'll do that. Why don't I have an actual prophecy to help guide my life? 5 shall go west to the goddess in chains. 1 shall be lost in the land without rain, Bianca. The bane of Olympus shows the trail. Cameras and hunters combined prevail. The Titan's curse must one withstand, and 1 shall perish by a parent's hand. So they need 3 hunters and 2 people from Camp Half-Blood. So the original team was like Grover, Bianca, Zoe. There was somebody else who didn't actually go with them, and Thalia. So Percy wasn't picked for it. One of them gets his like t-shirt that's like poisoned or something, so they're out for the count. And then Percy sneaks out to, you know, chase after them, and he uses Annabeth's cap to become invisible and stuff. So all of that is all fine and well. They're going on this quest and they're abiding by this prophecy. But yeah, Bianca is the one who dies in the land without rain, and then the person who loses their life at the hand of their father, and 1 shall perish by a parent's hand, that one is Zoe by Atlas. And that moment was so sad. It was so sad. You know what, it hurts even more as well because just before this, we have the group going to Annabeth's parents' house, like her father and her stepmom, and they seem like such good people as well. And the fact that Annabeth's father as well tries to save her too, like, what a good father, you know? Like, I love exploring good parentage in this series, considering a lot of people do have daddy issues. It was really nice to see the whole Dr. Chase moments, but it's when Zoe fights her father. It wasn't just the poison that was killing her, it was her father's final blow. Zoe had known all along that the Oracle's prophecy was about her. She would die by a parent's hand. And yet she'd taken the quest anyway. She had chosen to save me, and Atlas's fury had broken her inside. It's so sad as well because Zoe, she isn't really that nice to Percy to begin with, so you kind of don't really root for her at the very beginning. But what this book does so well is putting us on her side by the end of it. She remains mysterious for a good chunk of this book, and then we kind of chip away at her until she has to leave us by dying. And she's like, stars, I can see the stars again, my lady. A tear trickled down Artemis's cheek. Yes, my brave one, they are beautiful tonight. Stars, Zoe repeated, her eyes fixed on the night sky, and she did not move again. Oh god, like, that was really getting me teared up. Like, that was so freaking sad. Oh, especially since before as well, she mentioned something about not being able to see the stars, and I'm like, she can see the stars now, and she's gonna be part of the stars. Oh god, that was so bloody emotional. I feel on the verge of tears. Like, I could probably cry if I tried. I don't want to. I don't like crying, but I didn't realize how much I would actually feel for Zoe by this point. And when we did finally say goodbye to Bianca, I was kind of like, I did like her, she was fine, but I hadn't built too much of an emotional connection to her just yet, and I do appreciate the sacrifice she made. But again, there's a part of me that's like, she's not really dead. Prove me wrong, prove me wrong. I love the skeletal army that was brought into it also, and they were like kind of chasing them around. I love the setting in San Francisco, when they go to San Francisco, I thought that was great. Also, there was a really weird moment with someone. Where was it? This is before San Francisco. Her name was like something, I think it was Rachel. Rachel Dare, but she had a middle name too. I'm like, okay, she's fancy. She's got 3 names. Oh, you know what? Actually, I've totally forgot about this part when Percy is talking to Bianca. Percy is asking her, so you've been raising Nico pretty much all your life, just the 2 of you? She nodded, that's why I wanted to join the Hunters so bad. I mean, I know it's selfish, but I wanted my own life and friends. And then she does that. Oh, that is like so sad. I love Nico, don't get me wrong. I just needed to find out what it would be like not to be a big sister 24 hours a day. Okay, now I feel like a bitch. Now I feel like a bitch for saying I didn't emotionally connect with Bianca. Because now that I remembered this little part here, yeah, okay, fine, you got me. I just didn't want to be too attached to too many characters, okay? Again, like, it's kind of hard for me to really automatically like or fall in love with, like, new characters 3 books into a series when I'm already struggling sometimes to remember characters from before. My little brain can't handle all of it, okay? Oh, also, the random moment as well when Percy meets Aphrodite. She is so funny. She can be kind of not exactly mean, like she tells the truth, like again, like she is very strategy based. She knows the danger of Percy still being alive, so she tells us that. So obviously, like, we like Percy because he's our main character. So the stuff that she says by the end of the book, it's like, that's all Percy you're talking about. But, you know, she does have to tell the truth. But I love when she's talking about her daughter Annabeth to Percy. And she's like, you even dream about her? That's so cute. She was about to throw her life away and you, my dear, you can save her from that. It's so romantic. Like, she's really pushing, like, this quest for true love and stuff. Like, she kind of notices that maybe Percy and Annabeth have this connection, this, like, romantic connection now. I also find it kind of cute. It's, like, it's so funny as well, just, like, how embarrassing it feels, like, for Percy. That, you know, Annabeth's mother is being like, oh, there's true love stuff. And he's like, wait a second, I never said. I blushed. I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so funny to see Percy wriggling out of it, or trying to anyway. Oh, Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Yeah, so there was this really random moment with her when Percy bumps into her. And she seems to be just immortal, but she can see through the mist. And so she kind of helps him escape during this moment at the Hoover Dam. It was just a bit of an odd moment. I was like, do I need to keep an eye on Rachel? Like, will she come back? Like, what is the connection there? Is there more to her? Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Like, that's what I need to keep my mind on. So she pops up in a future book. At least I'll try and remember. I also love the winter vibes. It is currently December 12th for me right now. And we are gearing up for Christmas. I love the fact that there is like a sort of Santa Claus or someone dressed as Santa Claus in this. And we have this winter setting because it's before, I think, the winter solstice they mentioned. And there's moments with snow. It just made me feel great because it's currently December, it's currently winter for me. So it was good, it was good. I also love the fact that Bessie is the terrible monster that will bring an end to the gods. Bessie was like that sea cow thing that Percy helped at the start of the book, which again I didn't mention because I'm all over the place with this one. Apparently it's called an Ophiutorus and it needs to be sacrificed. You'll bring its entrails to the sacred fire of the mountain. You will gain unlimited power, and for your 16th birthday you will overthrow Olympus. Like, that is the prophecy, and it's like, this sea cow? Really? So yeah, I was a little bit all over the place with this one, but I really enjoyed the story so much. Again, it was still very exciting, fast-paced. Took me a little while to get used to the new characters, and I kind of had to shake off that feeling that we were treading the same ground as the second book when we had to go and save Grover, but this time it was Annabeth. But I do appreciate the fact that Rick Riordan is still changing things up a bit and, you know, making these quests feel so different from one another within the first 3 books, and still progressing the main plot too, getting towards the 16th birthday prophecy, the overthrowing of Olympus. Also, like, what about Luke? Like, is Luke gonna switch sides? I was worried about Thalia during this book. I thought she might switch sides. And her button heads with Percy quite a few times led to some really great moments between them later on when they kind of appreciated one another. And I really enjoyed that development. Yeah, but I'm scared about what Nico's gonna do next, to be honest. Especially since when there is that interaction between Percy and Nico at the end, the ground rumbles and it cracks and opens up. And I believe that is what Nico's power is, or what he managed to swallow these skeletal things up. And he didn't kill Percy right there and then. He didn't make him go into the crack and go into the crack. He didn't swallow Percy up with the ground. That is good. Like, that is so good. I'm so glad he didn't, because he is very emotional right now. And I do feel like some of his anger is justified because, again, he's just lost his sister. and that connection between them is so powerful. But I don't love him yet, so please don't hate me for that. And I might not ever have to love him, because he could end up being, especially if he's Hades' son, he could end up being the person who's supposed to be overthrowing Olympus, and he's the person that we need to stop. So I'm excited to see how that unfolds. But what I do like is that Rick Riordan has made these characters that aren't so, easy to predict. I cannot predict a single thing of what's going to happen next, where these characters are going to go, if Luke is going to become a good guy, if Nico is going to become a bad guy, what is going to happen, what is going on. I'm so confused. I do not know. But I'm excited to continue and find out. Oh, also, right before I end this really all over the place review of the third book, Grover managed to hear Pan, who Grover and the Satyrs have been searching for. At the end of this book, he can hear Pan. I heard him. I have to find a suitcase. Whoa, I said. What did he say? Grover said to me, just 3 words. He said, I await you. So I wonder if the 4th book is going to be the search for Pan, but also dealing with the unpredictability of Nico and finding out that he is the son of Hades. As we get more closer to Percy's 16th birthday. It's just like, oh, so much is happening. I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I think I didn't love it as much as the first book, because I think the first book just has a lot of nostalgia for me. And I just think nothing really beats the trio of Annabeth, Percy, and Grover. But hands down, this was definitely better than the previous book. This might be the best one yet. I've given it a 4.5 out of 5, which is the same rating as The Lightning Thief, but I still don't think it's quite a 5-star just yet. It is so super close, and I have every faith that the final book, The Last Olympian, will get that 5-star. I'm just waiting for the perfect opportunity to dish out that 5-star. So my thoughts might be all rambly again like it was in the previous update. In this one, we have Percy's mum's now fiance. Well, actually, he hasn't even proposed just yet, but he does ask for Percy's blessing at the end. He has taken Percy to this new school where he is hopefully going to go when the semester starts. And while there, he bumps into that Rachel girl from the previous book who he met randomly. I knew that she would come back for some other reason. I didn't think she would just be a random mortal girl who can see through the mist and we not get back to her. It is such an odd coincidence that she would be here at this school when Percy gets attacked by these demonic cheerleaders. So I really like the start of this because it was just like, oh shit, here we go again with, Percy going to a new school, something going wrong, probably getting expelled. Although actually at the end of this, it does seem like everything is cleared up and he might be going to this school. And now he's turned 15. This prophecy is, again, getting so intense. He's either going to make or break Olympus when he turns 16. He's got 1 year left. 1 year left for us to find out. And if it isn't about him, then it's about Nico. He's 11 or something, so quite a while away. But I do think the prophecy is about Percy. So Annabeth comes, she and Percy go to Camp Hoplood, but the interaction between Rachel and Annabeth at the very start just shows you just how jealous Annabeth is a little bit of Rachel. And she doesn't have to be jealous, but as a teen, all of these emotions, and even though she is extremely clever and smart, sometimes emotions are really tricky to navigate, and I can really see this romance between Percy and Annabeth just blossoming. It is so cute. One of the main reasons why I absolutely adore this book over the last couple is because we get our main trio plus Tyson, at least for the first, I would say, half of this book. So we do have the Labyrinth, and they believe that Luke and some Titans, people on the bad side, who are trying to resurrect Kronos, they're looking for a way to get into Camp Half-Blood and destroy it. So one of the entrances that is there is this labyrinth that goes underneath. In fact, it's that vast labyrinth by the guy who begins with D. And again, there's a couple of D names that I'm kind of getting confuzzled with. Daedalus? Essentially, he is the architect. It is his maze. It is a place where I absolutely love exploring. I think it's such a fantastic setting. But I also love the fact that this was Annabeth's quest. So she is finally getting her own quest, and she's wanted one since, I think she said 7 years old. So we are getting, first and foremost, we are getting Annabeth. She is the main driving force for this quest. And of course, she has Percy coming along, Grover and Tyson, and I've missed that dynamic so much. And I really do like Tyson. We only got a brief glimpse of him in the third book, but we got way more of him in this book. It's like Rick Riordan knew what we wanted. We wanted our main trio back, and he gave us that, and then added on Tyson, who, again, I just really, really enjoyed from Sea of Monsters. But that's what I think the previous two books were missing for me a little bit. So everything that happens in the Labyrinth, oh my gosh, so exciting. We have this random place where there is this god with two faces, and it's confusing Annabeth, like, oh, you should go this way, oh, you should go that way. And then we meet Hera, and she seems a little bit strange as well, and she's like, again, one of the gods. But yeah, we leave her in a place where Annabeth kind of insults her, and now I'm a bit worried about Annabeth and what this god is going to do. So there were so many storyline threads that, not only that we came into this book with, because things like Nico, for example, storylines like that, Luke and Kronos, all of that was explored so well in this, but we have more threads after this too to lead to the final book that I think is just going to be so epic. We had a really funny moment. Where is it? It was, you know, the Sphinx who asks a riddle and you have to get it right. I freaking loved that chapter. It was so funny. We did have a random chapter where Percy, you know, shoveled horse shit and horse manure. I mean, it all makes sense, and, you know, it was like really clever the way he did it and the way he managed to get the water and stuff. Oh yeah, there's a game show called Answer That Riddle. So this Sphinx is asking 20 riddles instead of just the one. However, these aren't even riddles. These are just facts about the world. And even Annabeth is like, now come on, let's not insult my intelligence here. These are really basic questions. Give me a riddle. I love the way that they flipped that on its head. And again, like the way that Rick Riordan makes something so modern and so relatable sometimes is just so funny. I love that. So yeah, I enjoyed seeing their progression. They end up splitting up from Grover and Tyson because Grover is still looking for Pan. And again, like that's something, like a storyline that's been running throughout the series. And we got such a great resolution to that in this. But first I want to talk about Nico. So I didn't really know how I would feel about Nico. But there is this like kind of iris vision thing that Percy does where he can see Nico, and he sees him with this kind of ghost. And this ghost turns out to be King Minos. And Nico is trying so hard to get in touch with his sister, or to at least resurrect her and save her, because he misses her so much. And it honestly did tear my heart in two. I did feel sorry for him in the previous book when he first butted heads with Percy. You know, I told you to look after my sister and she's dead. You know, I wish it was you instead, kind of stuff like that. And I felt so awful for Nico. But again, I wasn't really connected with him just yet. Sometimes he came across as a little bit annoying. However, this book just like changed my mind on Nico completely. I felt awful. You know, it really tugged at my heartstrings when he was doing all of this, trying to get a way of saving his sister. He first sees them when they're at this kind of graveyard, and Nico is offering like McDonald's Happy Meals to raise the spirits as like an offering. And the ghost, or Minos, he says, in my day we used animal blood. It's perfectly good enough, they can't taste the difference. I will treat them with respect, Nico said. At least let me keep the toy, the ghost said. It's so silly. But you know, we're using what we have in the modern day in order to raise these spirits, and what better than a McDonald's Happy Meal? You know how I said, oh, I don't know if Bianca's actually dead? She's dead. Like, I totally believe it now. And they're trying to contact her, and you can see how much this guilt weighs on Percy too. He tells her, I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for, Percy. I made my own choice. I don't regret it. And like the conversation between Nico and his sister is so heartbreaking. You must listen to me. Holding grudges is dangerous for a child of Hades. It is our fatal flaw. You have to forgive. You have to promise me this. I can't, never. And then she digs deep. She's like, I know what you're actually really mad at. You're mad because I left you to become a hunter of Artemis. You're mad because I died and left you alone. I'm sorry for that, Nico. I truly am. But you must overcome the anger and stop blaming Percy for my choices. It will be your doom. And like you can tell, Nico is struggling with that so much. I mean, he obviously felt human in the previous book, but it like humanizes Nico's anger even more and makes you understand so much about like his pain and where he's coming from. Just seeing Nico finally come to let go of that guilt. And there was, I can't find it now, but there was a conversation between the ghost and Nico when the ghost mentioned something about sacrificing Percy, and Nico was like, what, you're talking about murder? I'm not going to do that. And even while Nico is at the height of his anger, at the height of his revenge, he still won't do something as awful as sacrificing Percy or committing murder in order to bring his sister back. He wants to bring her back, but in the right way. And I just thought it showed such depth to his character for not allowing that revenge and allowing this easy way of bringing his sister back by sacrificing someone else. Like, he wouldn't do it. His morals are so high and so strong. So this book made me really love Nico. I didn't love all of the dreams that Percy would have, because this happens in every book, really. Like, he dreams of something that's happening, and I guess this is some kind of prophetic thing that he has, maybe part of his powers, or maybe there is some connection between Percy and Luke. And I just don't really love all of that because the dreams happen so frequently, and it was just a really convenient way of telling us what's going on outside of Percy, which I know from a narrative standpoint we needed to know, but I just don't love dreams as a storytelling method in general. So I think that's probably why I didn't give this one 5 stars, because even that felt so forced and convenient, and there were just so many dreams so that we could see Luke. And honestly, I feel like we don't even really need to see Luke all that often, or as much as we did. A lot of it we could have just gathered from when we finally get to him at the end, and I think Kronos is like completely taken over him, because yeah, the body in the coffin was Luke's, and then Luke comes out and he is talking, but it's also Kronos's voice. The body has been well prepared. His voice was like a razor blade running over my skin. It was Luke's, but not Luke's. Underneath his voice was another more horrible sound. Kronos threw back his head and laughed. You know, so it's like he's possessed Luke, really. So it just, I can't believe it. I'm so scared about what's going to happen next with Luke and Kronos. Like, is Luke going to sacrifice himself in order to stop Kronos? Is this going to be the redemption arc that we needed for Luke? And, you know, this is the thing that I've had since the first book. I don't really fully know if Luke is 100% evil. I think he's been so wronged in life, and he is going through so much pain and agony about like being abandoned by his father in so many different things. Like, the gods have really screwed them all over. They do a lot of things, and the humans, the mortals, the demigods, they all have to suffer the consequences. So I totally get it, but I'm just scared about what is going to happen to Luke now. I do think he's going to redeem himself, because even Annabelle says like something was wrong with Luke. He looked nervous. He told his monsters to spare me. He wanted to tell me something. So I think there is this internal battle with Luke. Not just the outward battle with like Percy and everyone else, but I think Luke's biggest battle is with himself. And hopefully in book 5, he overcomes as much as he can so that he can overcome himself. So yeah, going back to Pan. Pan ends up dying, or at least, because the message that he gives Grover when he finally finds him, and what an incredible moment, by the way. What a great, satisfying moment for Grover to finally find Pan, and for his lifelong dream as a searcher to come to this point. He is the one to find him, and it was such a bittersweet and beautiful moment when Pan just sort of moves on. Oh, look, this part. Sorry, this is about Nico. I just found it. Even Daedalus says, "Will you take my soul for ransom then? You could use it to reclaim your sister." And Nico says, "No, I will help you release your spirit, but Bianca has passed. She must stay where she is." The progression, like, this is towards the end of the book. Like, this is after Nico has decided, okay, I'm not going to try and bring my sister back. That progression as well, I've never been so proud of a character as in this moment. But where is this bloody moment with Pan? I should really do tabs, but I just don't. I just write. And then I hope for the best. Yeah, it's like the spirit of the wild, and they have to each take up a part of Pan, finding that strength of the god within. Oh, I freaking found it. You must tell each one you meet if you would find Pan, take up Pan's spirit, remake the wild a little at a time, each in your own corner of the world. You cannot wait for anyone else, even a god, to do that for you. And sort of like making amends with the world. And this is what Grover's journey has come to. Also, it leads to Grover doing this kind of scream thing, which was kind of tied to panic, but also goes back to Pan. And it was this incredibly powerful power that Grover had invoked. And I'm just curious about how much more powerful Grover can get. Is he going to be like a big player in what is going to be an epic battle in the final book? Grover summoned the power of the wild god. Like, can he summon that at any time? There's just so much to think about. And there is so much at stake here, because yeah, now like it really feels like Olympus is nearing that decisive moment in time. Is it going to fall? Is it going to stay standing? Is Kronos gonna destroy everything and everyone? Is Luke gonna survive this? There is so much that I'm so excited about with this next book. You have no idea. And I was just like fuming at the end because Nico, like this is, I think a couple of months later, it's Percy's birthday and Nico appears and Nico says the way to beat Luke, he said, if I'm right, it's the only way you will stand a chance. He doesn't even tell us because they're going inside for cake and ice cream. I'm like, no, tell me, don't end the book this way. Part of me is hoping that Luke can be saved. Oh, also, this is another thing, right? I need to wrap this up because I have reading sprints in 7 minutes. But another thing that I'm kind of not exactly 100% loving is the fact that I'm not sure Percy can really do anything himself sometimes. So Hera appears and she says, I guided you more than you know in the maze. I was at your side when you faced Geryon. I let your arrow fly straight. I sent you to Calypso's island. Oh, and the whole scene with Calypso too. Calypso, my heart broke for her. The fact that she is stuck on this island and every now and then they will send a hero who they know will not be able to stay and she will fall in love with and they will have to leave her. Each time. I'm so gutted about Calypso. That is awful. The poor girl. So we had Hera kind of guiding him the entire time without him knowing. And I'm pretty sure that's happened almost in every book. There's always been something that's like guided Percy in the right direction. And I'm just wondering a little bit now, can Percy do this himself or does he actually need the guidance all the time? Because I would love it if in this final book, we don't get this kind of revelation that, oh, I've been with you the entire time. I've been guiding you in this direction and pointing you in that direction. I would love it if just Percy just did it himself. So that's the only other thing that I kind of have a minor issue with. And I also really enjoyed the scene between Percy and Poseidon. When Poseidon was like, you're my favourite son. Like, don't tell Tyson that, gosh. But this was, again, fantastic. Like, my minor criticisms aside, it's shaping up to be like a fantastic series, leading perfectly into the final book, or at least the final book right now. I don't know how, again, the Chalice of the Gods like works into this storyline, or if it just like has a different storyline set after Heroes of Olympus, Rise of Apollo, Magnus Chase, blah blah blah, or is this like really the perfect ending to the Percy Jackson saga? Why did it have to be this sad for? One word, Luke. One word, Luke. I had a feeling we would go in that direction as soon as Rachel said, the hero isn't you, Percy. I was like, God damn it, it's going to be Luke, isn't it? And because of the prophecy, because we find out the actual full prophecy in this as well, you know, the one that Percy hasn't really known the full context to. The half-blood of the eldest god shall reach 16 against all odds, and say the world in endless sleep, the hero soul, cursed blade shall reap. A single choice shall end his days, Olympus to preserve or raise. And as soon as we found out that the hero wasn't Percy, I was like, it's freaking Luke, isn't it? And he's gonna die. He is gonna die. I freaking knew it. I knew it. Oh, that's so sad. That is so sad when we get to that actual moment, because I feel so badly for him the entire time, the entire series. He's just felt wronged by the gods. He's felt wronged by his father, and he has such great points for that. Obviously, it ain't an excuse to, you know, bring back Kronos and potentially destroy the world. But at least Luke wasn't one of those villains that was just evil for the sake of being evil. And even then, you can't really call him a villain. He does some bad things, but he also does some good things. And then he dies a hero. Oh, that's so sad. It was actually like really scary, everything that was going on. Like, again, this update's gonna be a mess, but this was such a exciting, chaotic mess of a book as well, honestly. Well, not a mess. It wasn't a mess of a book, but like the way my emotions were a mess. Like, it was all over the place. Okay, yeah, so during this entire book as well, we had Rachel who had this dream of Luke as a child, and there are some ties back to childhood, the past, which also ties to Thalia, Annabeth when they were younger with Luke getting to Camp Half-Blood. And I honestly love the cyclical nature of that, the way that we go back to the past in order to correct what's happening in the present. In that connection with Annabeth as well, specifically, I feel so bad for Luke. Like, when he was like, Annabeth, did you love me? And she's like, no. Well, not exactly no. Like, she didn't have the same kinds of feelings. She loved him in the sense that he was like her brother, you know? Like, she did love and care for him, just not romantically. But anyway, yeah, the fight between Percy and Kronos and Luke is Like, you can't do it yourself. He'll break my control. He'll defend himself. Only my hand. I know where I can keep him controlled. And I'm just like, you're not just going to keep him controlled. You're going to die. In the words of Vanessa Hudgens, you're going to die.
People are gonna die.
I couldn't. With difficulty, he stabbed himself. Oh, God. Like, my heart, my honest to God heart. And I was kind of grateful as well because I knew, like, Luke needed this moment in order to have that redemption arc, in order to save the world. And even though, like, this entire time it's been the Percy Jackson series, from the very beginning we've also had Luke kind of be in the background a little bit and then, you know, get more prominent as a sort of opposite to Percy, but they actually turn out to be pretty much alike, like so alike. The comparisons between the two is just so overwhelming. But Luke was manipulated by Kronos and unfortunately fell on the bad side, but always kept his humanity and his mortal connections with, like, Annabeth and his friends, and that kind of what saved him in the end. Saved him by losing him. Oh, God. So sad. Right, I didn't love the narrator of the audiobooks. I'm so glad I read this physically as well because I just had to ignore him when he was doing these voices for these characters. Luke was like, yo, Percy, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna, you know, tear down Mount Olympus. He sounded like such a bro and it just kind of killed it for a bit. And also Annabeth as well. The narrator made Annabeth sound so whiny every single book. I'm so glad I just ignored him whenever he would do character voices and just focused on the text because he made Annabeth be like, Percy, why are you doing this? Percy, Percy. Oh, fuck off. I would 100% recommend not just listening to the audiobooks for the series if you're going to read the series for the first time. Do both if you have to, like I did because I needed to pay attention, but don't just listen to the audiobook. The narrator doesn't put his entire bussy into it. At times he's good, but other times not so much. Oh, you're a hero at the end, Luke. You'll go to Elysium. Oh, stop it. And the way that he ends with saying, Ethan, may all the unclaimed, don't let it happen again. And then Percy, when he gets a gift from the gods, and he asks, like, he could be immortal, he could live forever, he could be powerful and all this, that, and the other. But, you know, he takes one look at Annabeth and realizes he doesn't want that kind of life. He wants to be with Annabeth, which is so sweet, by the way. But also the fact that the gift from the gods that he wants is that all the gods claim their children, you know, like actually be parents. And, you know, what Luke went through was a product of being abandoned and feeling abandoned and all of those issues from the past and how that affected him, and that led him to where he ended up. So to try and fix that going forward, claim your children. Don't abandon your kids. Like, I love that so much. The fact that we have this huge dramatic change in this world, and that is brought about because of Luke and Percy. Oh, it was so good. Oh my god, all the fighting scenes were exciting. Typhon, oh my gosh, there was like a fight between Typhon and Zeus and Poseidon, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I can't wait to see this adapted. Like, this needs to come to fruition. In this TV series, it has a lot to live up to now. But I can really picture the battle scenes, but also the scenes that led up to it. You know, the invasion of New York, Percy going under the water to talk to the two different, like, current gods or whatever they were called in order to bargain with them to, like, stop this invasion from coming towards New York. I can't remember their names exactly, but it was just so exciting. I could, like, picture it so vividly, and I just can't wait to see how they do that, all the scenes of Percy underwater and stuff. Like, oh, that's just gonna be so good. Also, the narrator, right? Because I'm going back to what happens with, like, Nico and Percy when they go to the underworld. And they did this a few books back, and, you know, whenever we've had Persephone, the audiobook narrator makes her sound like she's a really heavy smoker and she can't really speak. He, like, makes her very wheezy. Husband, we talked about this. You can't go around incinerating every hero. Besides, he's brave. I like that. Why? But oh my god, I was floored when, you know, because at the very end of book 4, we had Nico come back and he said, oh, I know the only way to beat Luke or Kronos or whatever. And then they went in for birthday cake and I was like, no, come on, tell us. Why are you waiting to tell us? But then we kind of skipped this whole ass time. Nico ends up tricking Percy to go to the underworld. And I was like, Nico, come on. I thought we were past this. We don't need to be tricking anyone. But, you know, Nico's intentions were very pure, and it did cause some conflict between Percy and Nico, which was exciting to watch, honestly. Like, quite dramatic. But you can tell Nico didn't do it to spite Percy. You can tell he doesn't have any resentment towards Percy after what happened with his sister. We resolved all of that in book 4, and it was beautiful. But yeah, Nico really wanted some more answers about his family and all of that stuff. So I can understand where it's coming from, because I think the main theme of Percy Jackson as family, our children and stuff like that. So it was really important to explore, I think, and it wrapped Nico's storyline a little bit nicely in this book. I loved seeing how he actually inspired Hades to action. I didn't think Hades would ever join in with a fight, but he kind of listened. Hades was actually quite reasonable, and he ended up doing that, and I just found that so incredibly amazing that Nico had the power to do that. It's freaking god of the underworld, and he got him to do it. And I know he's his son, but like, it's a huge thing. So it was a little bit dramatic when I thought that Nico had betrayed Percy, but, I should have just trusted Nico in the end. He was actually a good boy. But also the powers that Nico has are incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. Like, wow. There is just so much potential there. And, oh my gosh, like, again, like, I'm not making any sense, but the end prophecy, like, there's another prophecy. Rachel becomes the new Oracle, which was exciting. The little bit of rivalry between Annabeth and Rachel was a little bit... for me, like, I don't really care for much of that stuff. It made Annabeth look a little bit dumber than she is. But I guess it's teens for you, isn't it? You do naturally get jealous when you're a teen. I need to remember these are teenagers. But like, they act so much older. Like, they're saving the world. Like, what was I doing when I was a teenager? Bloody nothing, I tell you. So they feel older, but they act like teenagers sometimes, which is honestly fine. Like, I'm not criticizing. I just didn't love the whole... almost love triangle between Percy, Rachel, and Annabeth. Especially when we had this weird moment when Rachel says goodbye to Percy, and Percy's like, I just feel like I've been dumped. Just like, you can have friends who are girls, like, you don't have to fall in love with every friend who is a girl. But, it's so sweet, though, the way that Percy and Annabeth develop. Oh my gosh, it was so adorable. Oh, yeah, when they have the underwater kiss, and Percy says it's pretty much the best underwater kiss of all time. Oh, so sweet. He deserves love. He really does. When she kissed me, I had the feeling my brain was melting right through my body. You sweet boy. Oh my god, right, okay, I remember now where I was going. Well, actually, no, first, before I talk about where I was going. First, though, Annabeth, because I love the fact that we had all these battles, very epic, very amazing, and we have, like, the rewards that we get at the end. Like, Annabeth is going to be the new architect of Olympus. Like, she deserves it so much. She is so brilliant. She is absolutely amazing. So now she is getting to rebuild Olympus, and she gets to be the architect. Grover's going to go traveling and all of that stuff. He's, like, on a gap year. But it's the prophecy. Rachel has a new prophecy. So 7 half-blood shall answer the call. To storm or fire, the world must fall. An oath to keep with a final breath. And foes bear arms to the doors of death. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rachel? We literally just got rid of Kronos, which he might come back because, it was said that, monsters never really die. They just sort of evaporate and then kind of re-emerge. Like, years, could be, weeks, it could be years, could be hundreds of years. So, Kronos isn't totally dead, but just beaten. And yeah, like, is it referring to him? Is it referring to the Percy Jackson Chalice of the Gods book? Is it referring to one of the later series? I think the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo series are part of Percy Jackson, whereas Kane Chronicles and Magnus Chase are not exactly set in the Percy Jackson Camp Half-Blood Chronicles, I think it's called. So, like, is it referring to a later series? Like, what is that prophecy? Why are we ending this way? I just want to be happy. I feel like I deserve it. As a reader who's just gone through 5 books in like 5 days, I feel like I deserve to be happy, don't I? Where's my reward for finishing the series? Instead, all you did to me was make me worried about the future. I mean, to be fair, I was also rewarded with all the happy moments and all of that. But that's not the point. I need answers. I loved seeing Thalia come back too. She was awesome. Oh, and I felt so... Again, go back to Luke. His mum... When we have the moments with Luke's mum, and I believe that she had this side too, and that kind of, made her lose a part of herself, and the way that affected Luke when he was younger too, oh my gosh, that poor boy. And the way that she was making him sandwiches and things, and she's waiting for him to come home. Oh God, why? Why? Why did you have to twist the knife in? Oh, I loved the introduction of Pandora's box as well. Prometheus explains it. And he was like, it was never a box, it was a pithos, a storage jar. I suppose Pandora's pithos doesn't have the same ring to it. I mean, yeah, it doesn't. The Pandora's box, and then I believe Percy ends up giving it to Hestia, I think, the last Olympian. But again, like, sprinkling in that Greek mythology is something that's always been a strong suit for the series. And I think this book still did it perfectly, while also not distracting from the main plot of this battle. Obviously, the Battle of New York, everyone going to sleep, that was just brilliant. Honestly, I loved it. I love the fact that Clarice also came and helped, and the Camp of Ares also helped. It just felt like such a united front. And also the centaurs too, when they come back. It just felt like such a huge epic moment. It felt like Avengers Infinity War. And it was exactly what I wanted to see in a final book, honestly. I feel like I've got like a lot of thoughts, but at the time of reading this, I was just enamored by the action. It was very action heavy. And it definitely took a little bit of a different direction to the previous 4 books, which were very much focused on quest tropes and following this pattern with a certain kind of quest. In this one, even though, yes, the quest is to defeat Kronos, it didn't feel like the previous 4 books. It felt like a finale. And, oh, what a heart-wrenching finale it was. This book gets a 5 out of 5. It is my favourite Percy Jackson book. I mean, it was just so good. It was just so good. I also completed Percy Jackson and the Singer of Apollo right after finishing the 5th book last night. And yeah, it was fine. It's just a very short story. It's actually 43 pages, although it might be a little bit less because there were some blank pages too. So I can't really put it on the same pedestal as the previous 5 books, really. But if I was going to give it a rating still, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It was still very enjoyable, even though it was only a few chapters. One thing I would have loved, though, is if we had the chapters actually with chapter headings, you know, because one of the things I really love about the Percy Jackson books is that the chapter titles are so unique and fun. But yeah, we don't get them in this short story. And essentially, it's Grover's birthday. Apollo comes to meet Percy and Grover. Annabeth isn't in this one. Annabeth is in San Francisco visiting her father. And on Grover's birthday, Apollo tells him that one of his singers is missing. She's gone rogue. Apparently, she wants to be the next Katy Perry. I believe this was written in 2013 or something like that, so I guess that was when Katy Perry was at her height. I think if it was written now, he would have put like Taylor Swift or something. And they are called Chrysosylodons? Golden Singers, they're my backup band. I do love the way that he is just talking about this whole thing as if it's like so normal. And Grover thinks that he took them out for his birthday because the singers are so beautiful. Like when Percy and Grover hear them, all inhibitions just fade away. They feel so happy and amazing. Grover's like, you brought them out for my birthday? Apollo laughed, no fool, I've got a concert tonight on Mount Olympus. Everyone's going to be there. The 9 Muses are opening. Oh my god, iconic. Bless my soul, Herc was on a roll. And I'm performing a mix of old favourites and new material. I mean, it's not like I need the Caledons. My solo career has been great, but people will expect to hear some of my classic hits with the girls. Daphne on My Mind, Stairway to Olympus, Sweet Home Atlantis. It's going to be awesome. I'm just you know what, I do hope in the TV series we get some kind of performance from Apollo and his singers at some point, because I just think that would be incredible. But yeah, he does task Percy and Grover to find this rogue singer and bring her back. They do encounter her twice, one in Times Square and one on, is it Times Building? The top of Times Tower. And they do end up getting her in a bird cage because she can turn into a bird. And they save the day, essentially. It is very, very short. There is really not much else to really say about the plot. It was a nice little short story. I would love to read more short stories in this world. I like how Percy tricks her into thinking that he wants her autograph. And obviously his pen is his sword. So when she gets his pen, it obviously like helps because it's his sword. So I like the whole tricking of trying to get her autograph kind of thing. It was clever, it was funny. But yeah, just like 3 out of 5. It's nothing too spectacular. It's absolutely fine, and honestly, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Okay, let's rank these books, but now I'm feeling like I'm going to change the rating of the 3rd book. Yeah, I'm going to change the rating of the 3rd book, The Titan's Curse, from a 4 to a 4.5. Thinking back on it now, yeah, I definitely loved it a whole lot more than I thought. And my ranking might change as time goes on because I'm a little bit conflicted between 2 of these choices. Let's just go through the ranking. Obviously in 6th is The Singer of Apollo. It isn't really supposed to be included with the first 5 books in terms of ranking because it's just a short story. But, you know, I read it for this vlog and I still wanted to include it. My least favourite Percy Jackson book was The Saved Monsters. The more I think about it, the more I don't really love it that much. But definitely the weakest link in what is a really stellar 5-book series. And number 4 is The Lightning Thief. And I thought this will probably end up being my number 1 because of just like nostalgia purposes and the fact that I've read this book like 3 times now. It's just so iconic, and I think it does such a solid job at introducing you to the magic of this world. In 3rd, I have The Titan's Curse, but you know, I'm kind of conflicted. I don't know whether I actually prefer it over book 4 or not. You know, the more I think about what happened in this book, the more I think it impacted me, the more that I think how important this book is in the series. I don't know, like it had such a strong plot. I do really, really enjoy and love it. But yeah, currently third for me. In second, and my runner-up is the penultimate book, The Battle of the Labyrinth. I just love the Labyrinth setting so much. I love how we build to the finale in this. I love how we have such beautiful wrappings up, if that's right, of like previous storylines with like Nico, for instance. And it was just so enjoyable from start to finish. Cannot fault it that much. But my number one book in this series is the final book, The Last Olympian. I just thought it was a perfect finale. It was so bittersweet, made me happy, it made me sad. It was filled with action, filled with excitement, and I'm going to miss it. I really am. So I do plan on continuing the Rick Riordan books. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I do actually own a lot of the books. I have the King Chronicles and the Heroes of Olympus, and I've had them for years, but I never really got around to reading them because I never finished Percy Jackson. But now I've finished Percy Jackson and I really want to continue. So I've just completed Percy Jackson in December 2023, and then I'm going to go into the King Chronicles in March 2024. I know it's kind of its own little thing, and it has Egyptian mythology, which I love. I love Egyptian mythology so much. I've read the Red Pyramid before, but I kind of speed read it for a book club, so I really do need to read it again before continuing the series. Never read books 2 and 3. And then I would love to go back to the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles with the Heroes of Olympus in May 2024. Really excited to find out if that prophecy at the end of the last Percy Jackson book kind of plays into the Heroes of Olympus or not. We'll find out. In July 2024, I want to read the Magnus Chase series for the very first time. I think that'll be really cool, and I think the summer of 2024 will be the perfect time to read it. And then finally, The Trials of Apollo in November 2024. I think finishing off the Rick Riordan verse in November 2024 will be a great nearly end to the year. I don't want to rush them. I don't want to get too bogged down in them either, so I've spaced them out quite nicely, and I've spaced it out between my other content on my channel. So I do a whole lot more on my channel, not just Rick Riordan, but a whole lot of other series that I plan on delving into in 2024 also. So if you want to see anything else from me, if you want to see the rest of the Rick Riordan vlogs, then do like this video and subscribe if you haven't already for more. But that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave all your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what you think of the Percy Jackson series. Let me know absolutely everything. Did you cry? Did you laugh? Oh my gosh, it was just the best. Are you excited for the Disney Plus adaptation? Let me know. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons and my One Piece channel members for supporting my channel. If you'd like to join my Patreon or my One Piece channel membership, then all the links are down in the description box. But yeah, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye!